Welcome back to the Can I Be Honest show. We got a great show for you tonight. I'm excited. We're going to talk about the Ice Cube, Donald Trump, and everybody else, the contract with Black America. We're also going to talk about the Governor Whitmer kidnapping plot and its implications. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. If you're joining us, we'd love for you to grab a friend, 2 friends, 4 friends, and get them on here with you. Juan, how you feeling about this week?
Feeling good. I am excited to have this conversation. I have lots of thoughts about some of the recent happenings. Glad that we're not on here talking about an actual death, as we are oftentimes. We're talking about the plot to kidnap and potentially murder. That stuff is really, really serious. I do have thoughts about that. Really excited to dive into the Ice Cube conversation. I've loved some of the dialogue that I've seen happening. Definitely troubled by some of it, and some of the things that I've seen and heard. I mean, as usual, it's kind of par for the course. But I'm going to wait and hold off to share my thoughts, until we dive into that part of the conversation. But like Steve said, if you are joining us, if you're excited to have this conversation with us, we're glad to have you. Please invite some of your friends. It's going to get deep. It'll be live today. I promise you that. We'll be uncomfortable. Everybody will not agree with one another. But we will go there, and we will be honest. We hope that you will too. And as usual, we have plenty to talk about, and Ralph's going to tell y'all why.
This is America.
I have agreed.
These are animals.
America preaches integration and practices segregation.
Why did you say Mexico?
A rising tide of discontent.
The South will rise again. I have agreed.
We have contrasting visions about what America is. What America is.
This is America.
All right, so we're gonna get the Ice Cube. I know everybody wants to talk to the Ice Cube about the Ice Cube thing. We took a week off last week though, and we're gonna talk about Governor Gretchen Whitmer first and the plot to kidnap her. So if you're, and we'd love to hear at any time, like we want to see your comments. We want to hear what your thoughts are on this. Dewan, what are your thoughts when you think about the kidnapping plot, when you think about some of the conversation around it and all that?
Yeah, so I'm glad that somebody figured it out before it actually went down.
Right.
I can't imagine that, being the headlines and us being in a place to actually have people plotting and planning to kidnap anybody, much less, an elected official as high ranking as a governor. That is crazy. It's really crazy. And I mean, my imagination goes to a lot of places. But that wasn't necessarily on my radar. I mean, I was definitely concerned when I saw the protesters, marching around Lansing, with AR-15s and, nooses and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I know that those people are serious, and you have to take that type of stuff seriously. So, crazy, really, really concerned about that. One of the things that often troubles me is the inconsistency in which we pursue terrorist attempts, acts, or in this case, a foiled plan. I mean, when I pay attention to the way other people that have been labeled terrorists are investigated and the scrutiny that their family and everybody that they've had conversations and been connected to, when you're talking about a war on something, the approach that we normally take when we're at war on something, we've seen a war on drugs, right? War on poverty, supposedly, and we've seen now we're at war against terrorism. You know what I mean? And to not see the same consistently not see the same type of persecution, prosecution, disruption to the lives of folks that are labeled terrorists, that happen just so happen to be white, as if they would be when you'd have people that are of Muslim descent or like from the Arab community, somebody ends up doing something, or somebody is black, you know what I mean? Like the way that we investigate like everybody within their network.
And how do you know that's not happening?
Well, I'll say this. I haven't seen it publicized. I haven't seen like them getting the same type of scrutiny. I've seen their pictures plastered. I've seen them add to the number. And that's kind of where it is. So, I mean, I haven't seen their families. I haven't seen them like their families being posted. I haven't seen their sisters getting carried away. So if it is happening, then maybe the reporting is what's inconsistent. Maybe the investigation is consistent. Maybe the reporting and the publicity behind it is inconsistent.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing
you think it is happening?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think like I don't pay enough attention to like anybody's case to really think about that. What I think that there are part of the thing that's different about this than I think your typical thing is that, as Demi pointed out, there's 14 people involved. She's like, definitely not the A team. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's 1 or 2 people, then you typically do like a deeper dive into like backstory. Like when you have 14 people, they've done some stuff. They talked a little bit about how, you know, one of the guys from out of state had been pardoned. I think he was locked up for some, I don't even remember what it was. So yeah, and they could have ran more with that, because typically, you know, the criminal reform people will jump all over that kind of stuff and just like beat it to the ground. See, like this is why we don't do that kind of stuff. One of the things that's troubling, I'm still trying to figure out what to make of it, partially because these are, at least one of the guys that made a statement is just anti-government across the board. Like he made a statement that Trump is not your friend. Trump is government. Anyone who's government is not your friend. And so that makes it a little more nuanced to me, but it's also just deeply troubling. It's troubling for the governor specifically, for Michigan specifically, and just like for us in general, for America in general, because when you have people that are plotting like this, and I'm grateful for the FBI. That's another thing that out of this, that I'm like, man, like this is, I appreciate the fact that we have an intelligence organization that's kind of tracking this kind of stuff, and they've been watching, infiltrating and all of that on a level to keep people safe. And so at the same time, there are some dangerous people out here, and these are very tense times. And I think this is very indicative of what's going on in the country overall. I mean, you've just seen this ratcheting up of tensions manifesting themselves in a number of different ways. And so that, to me, in conjunction with everything else that's going on, is a growing concern of mine, and it is something that's I'm going to be continually paying attention to, as we continue to see things play out in other areas of the country. So
yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes. Just to see how it all unfolds, how it all plays out, as far as like, the way they're prosecuted and whatnot. I am, concerned. I know that we opted not to show a video that talked about it, but there have been like more kind of like, political posturing back and forth between the governor and the president. And, that's really troubling. I mean, because it seems like, everybody should be like coming really hard and kind of like, I guess, in support of, right? I think that you saw people back up a little bit when the president was dealing with, the coronavirus. You saw some folks back up and say, okay, we're concerned about him and the staff and whatnot. And you saw people like say, okay, we're calling a timeout on all of that stuff because this is really serious. Yeah. And I just think that, like, I would hope to see a timeout there. But, I mean, he's got everybody there chanting, lock her up,
Yeah, but who took the first shots?
And I realize it's campaign season. I mean, who took the first shots or who took the first shots this time?
This time.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know who.
Because I think she came out and criticized him first and said this, like the kidnapping plot is basically a manifestation of his rhetoric and everything else, and his white supremacy, et cetera, to which he responded like, bruh, like it's my FBI that just saved your behind, and then just like went into dogging her out. And so I don't like either one of them, honestly, like this. And I don't think she's got clean hands. Like, that's my thing. It's like I think she, from rewind to the coronavirus stuff, she came out, got her little shots in, and then he came harder, which he always does. And so he looked dumber. I'm just not a fan of like picking these little stupid political fights. I think she's like, I think she's complicit in that. And I think she likes it.
I mean, I would say she probably has a stand up to the bully type of approach to dealing with Donald Trump, right? I think that you see a wide range of people trying to deal with him in a bunch of different ways. And, she's Big Gretch. She ain't buying it. You know what I mean? So I would say,
stupid name.
If you're going to you're gonna take I'm gonna stand up to him and I'm gonna come back at him approach, I'm not so much tripping on that. I'm still gonna put the onus on him because there's a consistency there with him. I don't see her with the track record of like straight up attacking people, you know what I mean? Maybe positions, but with him, like this is not like, he has a beef with Gretchen Whitmer. This is consistent with who he is. Like, this is just her saying, I'm not going to lay down and take it. I'm going to come back at you. So for that, she gets a pass from me. You know what I mean? I don't see it as the same thing or tit for tat. That's kind of where I'm at with it. One more point on the terrorist situation. The other thing, because I've given lots of thoughts to this in the past, more so than now, the approach again to like dealing with like terrorism. I think that we have some groups in this nation that have like been identified as hate groups for decades. And when we announce a war on terrorism and they're not like somewhere on the list of top 100, because we had to go to other countries to pursue terrorists, right? Like we actually know where these groups are. Often, most times they have meetings, you know what I mean? And to not address that and deal with that, I think that doesn't put a healthy fear or an awareness to groups like the ones that was making this plot to say, hey, like they're on to us. There's a potential that they're coming after us. I think that there's some ways that they could have got a message across if we would have really been serious about dealing with domestic terrorism from Jumpstart when we announced the war on terrorism. And I'm talking about like across the board. I'm not talking about Donald Trump now. I'm talking about Bush. I'm talking about Barack Obama and everybody else, that's in leadership when it comes to fighting terrorism. So, do
you think they should announce to people that they're going to try to be sneaky and investigate them? Like, how would they catch plots like this?
I think they should have went and like really did what they would have done if people were Arab. You know what I mean? Like they know where the white supremacist groups are. They know where the KKK are at. They know where they're at. It's like they don't have to go and look for them. You know what I mean? Like we had to spend a lot of money and lost a lot of lives, like sending people to Iraq, sending people to Afghanistan. We don't have to do that to deal with that. But those organizations aren't a threat to all of America. They're just a threat to some of America. And we're cool with that, in my opinion. That's the message that I get. As long as they're not a threat to everybody, then there's no pressure on us to really deal with them.
So how do you catch them then? Like if we're not committing resources, do you want us to put up a banner and say, hey, we're hunting you guys, or do you want us to just like catch them like and put them in prison when they're gonna do something before they do something? That's what I don't get. Like they're obviously somebody's working on it.
We need them to do something else.
Say that again.
Are we letting them start from scratch, or do we need them to do anything else?
No, you have to catch somebody in a criminal act in order to prosecute them.
Did we catch anybody from Iraq doing something before we went and bombed them?
So you want to bomb people for being like they're following people when they get to ready to do a criminal act.
No,
so the
I don't want them to. I didn't want them to bomb Iraq. I want them to be consistent. If this is how you deal with terrorism, deal with it the way you deal with it when it's brown people. That's what I want them to do. I don't want them to like bomb anybody. I'm just saying be consistent. If you identified somebody as a part of a hate group that hates Americans, you know, me being an American,
then do what?
Like, there are groups that hate me. There are groups that plot to kill me and people like me. I'm just saying, like, act like they was plotting to kill you. And what would you do then? We know what you would do because we got people still in Iraq and still in Afghanistan. That's all I'm saying.
So which is what? So they should kill everybody in the KKK. Is that what you're saying? Like I don't understand what you're saying.
I just said be consistent. I said if that's what you're doing, then do that consistently when it's white people.
So Hebrew Israelites people.
If that's what we're doing, do that, and then you eliminate threats. Or, you know what I'm saying, you bring people to justice. You identify people that actually committed crimes, right? Because we went and bombed Afghanistan and Iraq. We bombed innocent people. You know what I mean? At the thousands. We bombed innocent people, like, and they're dead now and they're gone. And they weren't terrorists, and we didn't investigate them. Okay. I'm talking about Iraq more specifically now. So I'm saying we know people that are actually part of organizations and that are hate groups. And there's no effort to do anything about them. We're going to wait until, so like, we either going to catch them in the act or we're going to let them kill some people. Then maybe we'll bring them to justice. You know what I'm saying?
Do you hear a lot of people talking about, I mean, I feel like we're conflating two different issues here. Do you hear a lot of people saying like Iraq was a great decision? I don't hear Republicans saying that. You know what I'm saying? Like I hear most people say that was dumb all the way around, like Democrats, Republicans, etc. So like I don't understand why would we go back to something that people say is wrong and say let's do this. Like I understand you're saying consistency. It just doesn't make like I don't think it's that simple. Like you have to like say like what should happen.
Of course,
so should we just?
I'm not saying it is simple at all. It's very complicated. You know what I mean? Like we don't value Black lives consistently, right? It's like if the KKK was a potential threat to like if they were plotting to kill like beloved white folks, if that was a part of their mission, if their hate speech was directly toward like beloved white people, and then they had a track record, a history that they go through, like, dude, like you have like a very, very crazy like disruptive attack that lost a lot of lives and a lot of people still are dying and physically ill because of some of the other ramifications from 9/11, right? But like you also have organizations that still exist that have spilled plenty of blood in this country, and they can be a part of that organization without being worried about if somebody was here in this country and they said they were a part of ISIS, what would happen to them, right? Nothing. KKK has blood on their hands. If you're a part of KKK, what happens to you? You got to wait till you do something. You know what I mean? That's the inconsistency and the hypocrisy that I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying anybody is saying what we did in Iraq was a good idea. What I am saying though is we really don't care. You know what I mean? We really don't care. We're not doing anything to fix it. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying.
Really don't care about what?
We don't care about other people. We don't care. We don't care what happened to the people in Iraq. I don't stand with us in not doing that. You know what I mean? Like I was concerned from day one, but as a whole, like it doesn't, like we don't value other lives the way we value American lives, especially white American lives. That's all.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, there's a lot there because I think that I don't think the hate groups are limited to people that hate non-white people. I think there's hate groups that hate white people too, and I think they're treating them the same way. But again, that's getting into some territory that's beyond my expanse of learning and all the other stuff. What's the word I'm looking for? Just when you look up stuff. Research. Man, we had a lot of comments, and I didn't have time to read them because I was trying to pay attention. One of the things that Demi said was that he did think that Whitmer, for whatever reason, was getting more heat because she was a woman. Because you had Cuomo saying some similar things, and he didn't get the same heat. But he does give it to men too. It's just, so I don't know if there's a science behind who he gives it to. Why, like, beyond that, so I can see that point, Demi.
So Demi, are you talking about Donald Trump giving heat, or are you talking about society giving heat?
She was talking about Trump specifically.
Okay.
Because that was during that time. But yeah, there's a lot of we're and you know, I think there was a lot of people agreeing with you that we are inconsistent in how we deal with things. Do you want to move on to the Ice Cube thing?
Yeah.
All right. So let's start. I think it makes sense to start with the he had initially, it seemed like, got canceled. They were supposed to have an interview with Cuomo on CNN. He had tweeted out it got canceled. Then they ended up having it the next day. And so let's get into that interview. It's like a 5.5-minute interview, but it's really, I think it makes a lot of sense. And so we'd love to hear what your thoughts are now about the whole Ice Cube thing, being an advisor to having conversation with Trump. So as we're watching this, love to see you drop some comments. But let's go ahead and roll the video. Ice Cube thing.
Yeah.
Came over to contract with Black America, and I didn't run to go work with any campaign. Both campaigns contacted me. Both campaigns wanted to talk to me about contract with Black America. One campaign said, "We love what you have, but let's really dig into it after the election." And one campaign said, "We love what you have. Do you mind talking to us?" And that's what I did. So I didn't run to nobody, and so that was real misleading to me.
I didn't say you ran to anybody. I said that you had taken a pivot.
Well, you said I ran over to the Trump team instead of the Biden team. It's just not true.
Well, but you are working with the Trump team instead of the Biden team, and people are giving you heat for it. What do you say to them?
Well, I'm willing to work with both teams, but I'm just working with whoever is willing to work with me. So the Trump campaign came to me and asked me to explain to them some of the contract with Black America. That's what I did. I'm not playing no more games, these political games. We're not part of a team. We have very broad problems, especially the wealth gap in this country when it comes to Black Americans. So I'm going to whoever's in power, and I'm going to speak to them about our problems specifically. I'm not going there talking about minorities. I'm not going there talking about people of color or diversity or none of that stuff. I'm going there for Black Americans, the ones who are the descendants of slaves. And that's what I'm going to talk to anybody who's in power with that. So if anybody got a problem with that, it seems like a personal problem.
Well, here's the problem, and it is very personal, as you know, for a lot of people of color, because they'll say, well, why would you pick Trump when he says there's no such thing as systemic inequality?
I'm not picking nobody. He's the president.
But why do you think he'd want to do something for the community when he says there's no such thing as systemic inequality?
I don't know what he want to do. I just know what the man said. I know what he said to the country. I've never met Donald Trump. So I don't know what he's going to do. I just know what he said he was going to do. So both of them have a plan. Both of them say they're going to do something. And who knows what's really going to happen after November 3rd. Nobody knows from each side. We're all hoping that candidates keep their campaign promises. So that's just it.
So let's look at it this way. I think that you're right to be skeptical, let's start with the Democrats, because even though there is a traditional connection between black voters and the Democrats, you could also say you've been let down or forgotten by Democrats in a lot of situations that would have mattered. Then you say, all right, so then what makes one side better than the other? That's where you get in trouble, which is, do you really think that Donald Trump can be trusted as much as you could trust Joe Biden?
I don't think I'm not trusting any of them. I'm just going by action. That's all I'm going by. I'm not going by words. I'm not going by rhetoric, not going by media spin, not going by none of that. You know, I'm not on nobody's team. I'm not on Team Blue, not on Team Red.
So then I have that wrong.
I'm an independent person, and I believe that's what Black people need to do, is become independent, and we need to get something for our vote. You know, that may not happen, but it's gonna happen.
It's got to happen. It's got to happen. Nothing changes if nothing changes. I look, if I had brought you here to fight with you, you would have known it. What I'm saying is, I think I did get it wrong, and I want to make sure I get it right. So saying you're working with the Trump team is wrong. What you did was, when they asked to talk to you about it, you said yes. If Biden had asked to talk to you about it now, you would have gone to them the same way. It's not about you choosing anything. It's you working with everybody who's got a chance of doing anything.
I'm working with whoever's in power. Yeah, I'll work with both. Whoever's in power, I'm going to work with. So whoever wins, they'll hear from me.
Okay, so I'm glad you came to clear it up. So Ice Cube is not with the Trump campaign. He's just giving his ideas, and anybody who wants to do something with him, fine. Do you believe they are doing anything with your ideas?
I believe, they looked at the contract with Black America and they updated their plan, but it's their plan. I have my plan. My plan is broad. It goes beyond the public sector. It goes into the private sector. Banks, even the movie industry. So we got to deal with a lot of different, companies, corporations, and even government when it comes to solving this problem. I believe it's a bipartisan problem. I believe it's a bipartisan problem when it comes to the issues, when it comes to Blacks in America and what's going on. It's not a Democrat problem. It's not for them to solve. It's not for the Republicans to solve. It's for both of them to solve. They do it when it comes to debt ceiling. They do it when it comes to getting us in wars. They seem to come together when it's something that really affects America. And I don't think nothing affects America more than the situation that Black Americans find ourselves in. This country is coming apart at the seams, and it's not going to come together after January 3rd, no matter who's the president, unless we deal with this wealth gap.
Man, there's a lot there. I am curious what people think. He's gotten a ton of heat from this. I've seen a lot of people disown him. There's a whole lot of heat that he's getting from this. What are your thoughts on this? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments too.
Yeah, we love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if y'all want to jump on tonight, I know that the Cube is able to get people to jump on that hasn't before. So you can look in our comment section and grab the link. So my thoughts are this, right? Like, I believe in negotiation, right? Like, I believe that you need to be willing and able to talk to people that you don't agree with, that you don't like, that you're on the opposite end of the spectrum with. And I believe that the best time to negotiate is when you have some leverage, right? It's like nobody's elected right now, right? So like putting that out and making folks say and commit to on, like, where you can have a record saying they said that they endorsed this, they were in agreement with some of this. Now it's on us as a people group, all of us, to hold them accountable to the things that they said they're going to do and continue to apply pressure, right? So I was really upset that so many people came so hard at Cube so quickly, right? And I saw a wide range of things. I don't think any of us are like above criticism and above being held accountable, right? So I don't see anything necessarily wrong with people asking, so wait a minute, are you endorsing one campaign or the other? You know what I mean? I don't see anything wrong with that. But that's not what I was hearing for the most part. It was either people that was like cool with it, and that was a small few that I was able to see and hear. We're cool with Ice Cube going to negotiate some terms. But for the most part, people were really coming hard. And like I want to make sure that I'm giving some grace here, because I understand that there's a lot of emotions, but there's a cost to the way that we respond, right? There's a cost to that. Like when you have influencers and whatnots, like speaking in certain capacities, like you take their legs and leverage from up under them, and you take pressure against whoever you're identifying as your opponent when you turn on a distraction, right? There's a couple things that made me say, you know, I'm gonna sit back and think this out and see where this is going. One, I respect and appreciate negotiations, right? And I know that you negotiate like when you have leverage. I saw this as like Ice Cube saying, like, we're in a position of leverage. This is going to be a close race, and I want to know where everybody's at, you know, and where they're gonna land. So I appreciated that. The other thing is Ice Cube has a track record in the history of identifying deals that aren't necessarily good for you or he don't see as good and negotiating some better terms. Thus, his break from NWA, right? The other thing is, like, there was never anybody that actually said, you know, he endorsed them, right? Or he was on their team or a part of their campaign. You know what I mean? Like, what was said was, we giving a shout out to Ice Cube, basically a shout out for him being willing to work like with Donald Trump, right? Shout out to Ice Cube for his willingness to step up and work with Donald Trump administration to help develop the Platinum Plan. So one, I would need to like figure out what the Platinum Plan is, you know what I mean? And then what does
which how many people do you think actually went to look at what that is?
I don't know. Not very many. Not very many. You know what I mean? I would guess. But you know, and then like, you know, what does working with them mean, right? Because you have like, and I'm gonna steal something that somebody shared with me yesterday and give them credit. So Deidre was saying, look, like this is the same administration that like Fauci came out and said, yo, like stop using my name, right? Like y'all taking my words out of context. So I know, I mean, we've seen Steve Harvey come back after looking confused in that photo op, and people going after him and looking to like come at him really hard, and him saying, look, like that's not what we had just talked about when we came out of the room. You know what I mean? So for those reasons, Cube's history and his track record, and we know that people will like take and twist and we're falling for it because the fact that nobody said that he was endorsing them, but we started to like respond and come at him really hard. Like, so that shout out did what it was intended to do, right? So, but because we're able to fall for it, those are some of the problems I have. Like I was invited maybe 4 months ago to come to the White House to meet with Donald Trump and some other folks that the meeting was going to be about parents with kids in school. And we were supposed to be coming there to share our thoughts on if we felt comfortable with our kids going back to school or not. And again, like I said earlier, I'm somebody that like, I believe in taking a meeting with people that you don't agree with. So what I did was I took the invitation. I went and talked to my wife, asked her if she was comfortable with it. She was like, no. We thought about it, and we processed it. She landed on no, and I'll give her reasons why. So that was one. And then the second, I reached out to someone that I know that works at a pretty decent level in government affairs for an organization here in the southeastern Michigan. And I said, look, here's what somebody asked me. Here's the offer to go and take this meeting at the White House. Donald Trump will be there. He didn't tell me not to take the meeting. He said, look, and I told him, I was like, my take is always, you take the meeting. And you go in there like optimistic that you can make something happen. And he said, look, I agree with you. You always take the meeting. He said, but what are you looking to get out of this? And what's going to happen? So he said, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You'll go there, you'll have a meeting, you'll discuss one thing, you'll end up in a photo op, and people are going to twist whatever you said or whatever you went down there to represent out of context. And you're going to be having to answer questions for that. So he's like, he didn't tell me what not to do. He's like, I wouldn't allow myself to be used in that manner. You're not negotiating with somebody in good faith. You know what I mean? So between that and my wife's position was, she said pretty much the same thing. You're going to get there, we're going to mess around and end up in a picture, and it's going to be, people are going to be assuming that we went down there in agreement with whatever the decisions he makes. Nobody's going to know that we went out down there to talk about our concerns, that we don't, we're not in agreement with his decisions to open up the schools and applying that pressure. And now I'm glad that I didn't go there, because Ice Cube has a much longer track record than I do, and a much bigger name than I do. And I see what's happening to him. You know, I would hope that people would give me the benefit of the doubt. But if we're not giving Ice Cube the benefit of the doubt, then I know that I wouldn't have stood a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't do that.
And he didn't even go to the White House. He just, you know what I mean, had communication back and forth. So,
Yep.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I need a drink of water, but
Yeah.
I'm like, we were tripping. We were tripping for a couple of days. So I'm sorry, I got some more thoughts, but I want to hear from some of the people that are watching, and I want to hear from you.
Yeah, to Dominique's point, people don't do research, they read headlines, and that they respond, they react. And it's interesting. Why I like that video is because there's pushback on both sides, and Ice Cube gets to really clarify, like, look, very clearly, like, this is not about, like, I'm not like really on anybody's side here. To me, this is a bipartisan issue. Like, this is something that everybody should be looking at, but I'm not necessarily like expecting the Democrats to do a whole lot. And they said, like, hey, we'll deal with this later. They had the same opportunity. He didn't reach out to either party. They both reached out to him. This is something that he's been pushing for a while. I'm going to work with who's in power. I'm going to work with anybody who wants to work with me. And so, like, I don't, you know, that's the part that for me is really key. I did definitely think about the fact that, like, you know, they can use this to posture and to try to, like, you know, pimp the situation, etc. At the same time, I think, like, as you look at that interview, he's thought about it all. You know what I'm saying? and very clearly says, look, I don't know what anybody's gonna do. I just know what they said they were gonna do. That's Democrat. That's Republican. Exactly. I'm not like, he's like, well, what do you trust? It's like, look, it's not about trust. It is not about trust. So I really appreciate, like, to me, like, watching that, it's like he has a very level head about all this stuff, very realistic expectations. On top of that, like, what they specifically said they were going to do, there are a couple different things. One involved policing. The other one talked about, like, a significant amount of money, capital, as well as, like, business development in the Black community that Trump is committed to. Now, I saw a critique of that, saying Donald Trump can't do that, the president can't do that, and I was like, really? Like, technically, because you see people run for office here, like a state rep, and like, I'm getting everybody a job, like, I'm gonna fix redlining, I'm gonna, like, get everybody, like, houses, we're gonna fix up these houses, we're gonna put homeless people in them, and like, dude, you can't do that. But with this particular president, if he wants to get that done, he'll get it done. What are Democrats gonna block it? You know what I'm saying? Like, we say, no, we're not putting this money towards, like, getting new Black business owners. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So if he wants it to happen, he'll make it happen. And so that's what I think is very interesting about this whole thing. I think he's got realistic expectations. I bet 90+% of people have not read A Contract with Black America. There's a summarized version if you just Google it. But, like, it's amazing. Ralph, can we throw up those? So here's the tenets, basically. representation, lending reform. So the representation is just like, you know, he talks about how Black Americans economically throughout many generations, there's a wealth gap. And so white family has 10 times the wealth. There's a whole bunch of things, but he talks about affirmative action in public schools. He talks about civil rights bodies and things like that. He's got lending reform, federal funding, Federal Reserve. He talks about, you know, wanting to see equality in lending. So all these things that we talk about is like there are systematic, like there are gaps. Like you look at any database and you're going to see gaps. Like he talks about like all this stuff is very detailed: finance oversight, data and credit, prison reform. He wants prisoners eliminate mandatory minimums. He talks about voter rights being restored after people come out of prison. There's a lot of judicial reform, police reform, FCC licensing. He talks about Confederate institutions. So this glorification of like the Confederate flag, which is like a rebel flag to who the U.S. is right now, like getting rid of those from government properties. There's a ton of stuff. And at the end, he kind of ties it all up with Black responsibility. It's like, you know, Black community has a responsibility to now like start, you know, if they're going to meet certain demands, like, you know, there's some things that we need to do. There's some more responsibility we need in music and etc. Like, I don't know, man, it's hard not to like. The only thing that I'm not a fan of in particular is the fact that I think that there is enough synergy in this is just how I think in general. He says, I'm not here for minorities. I'm not here for people of color. I'm not here, like, I'm here for Black people. And I think that's, I get it. Like those are the kind of things where when I think about equality, like, look, if we're doing a broad strokes here, like, let's hit it all at one time. But, you know, yeah. I think there's a lot to like. I'm a fan of all of it. I'm a fan of the conversations. I'm always a fan of I don't think that Trump specifically has shown signs of change, but I do think that this in particular is an opportunity to make some things happen. And I think Trump recognizes that. And I think all of his stuff is like, I think he plays the game very well, like politically, like in terms of, he's a strategic dude. He's like, he's an anomaly to me. Like I don't understand. He defies the laws of logic, like in so many ways. So
yeah, for sure. It's yeah. I really want to know what the conversation is going to look like. You know, now that we've got a couple clips of Ice Cube, like sharing his perspective, right? And somebody being able to ask him those questions, because to negotiate, give somebody something and not offer anything. Like if I think Demi said, what happens if he gets reelected and he reneges on it, right? It's like, I think that Ice Cube is fully aware that could happen, but he also is fully aware that could happen if Biden gets in. You know what I mean? Because I think what he's saying, and the whole need for it, is that like it hasn't been done to date, right? Like we have policies that are not specific to address some of the specific issues that we have. And I think that's why he's going in there saying, here, I'm going there speaking specifically for Black people. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to do a lump. I really want to know what's happening here. Here are some of the things that I like, a group that he a team that he's assembled and come up with, right? And I get it. Some of those things that he has are things that other folks have already said. And I've heard fights and people like not wanting him to take credit for that. And I'm like that's cool. I don't think that is something that's that important to Ice Cube. Like one of the things that we should keep in mind is that like Ice Cube is talking about an agenda to like balance the playing field economically and financially. He's not in the same position as the people that he's necessarily fighting for financially. He's in a much different space. So for him to like commit himself to that type of to these issues, I'm like, I want to hear more and not less of what he has to say. And I think, you know, some of the things I said is like, who nominated him to speak for Black people? You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm like, come on, man. It's like, dude, like, you know, so let me say where I'm at with that specific question and point. I'm like, because sometimes people put people in front of you and let them speak and answer questions the way that they want those questions answered, and they want them to represent like people. And I'll say this, for me, like, if you've had this experience, then like, by all means, you should be able to speak, like, not for everybody at all. And I don't think anybody
Which
does.
he's not claiming to.
And he's not claiming to, but I think that, like, to act like he can or somebody else can, as if we've endorsed anybody as a national universal leader of Black people like that. Like, we just don't have that. That does not exist. Now, do we have some people that, you know, I think we've adopted as legit spokespeople? The only endorsements we do now is we just don't cancel them until they piss us off. You know what I mean? Like, so there's no unified voice saying, hey, let, you know, Ta-Nehisi Coates speak for us, or, you know, let this person or that person speak for us, right? There's not, like, that doesn't necessarily exist. But I would say if somebody has a platform, they have more to lose than they have to gain, and they're speaking up on behalf of people that, you know, have been misused and mistreated consistently. Like, I want to hear more and not less of what they have to say. So those are some of my thoughts. I'd love to hear more from you guys. Demi, Ralph said you need to just jump on. You need to click on that link that's in the chat, because you're really bringing it,
lighting it up.
Yes, for sure.
To the reneging question, you know what's interesting? He gave a buttload of money to HBCUs, and you know, unemployment. When you look at the Black unemployment rate, there's something to be said about that too. He could renege. I don't, you know, and I agree with DeJuan's point. I just don't think it's that, you know, I think that, like, the thing about the HBCUs and certain things that he's done, which make people kind of scratch their heads, but often don't get the same play as a lot of these other things. Because the only people you hear talking about that is his campaign. You don't ever hear, like, I don't ever hear the left talking about how much money he gave to historically Black colleges and universities. The other thing, you know, to your point, DeJuan, about, like, what's comical to me about, like, who made you the spokesperson is not just the fact that he didn't say he's a spokesperson, but really, like, when you go look at, like, what he's pushing and what he's saying, like, and mapping out, like, here's where the areas of inequality are, and like, here's what we want to do to see this inequality be rectified. Like, what about that do you disagree with? You know what I'm saying? You just disagree who he's talking to, and so for that reason, he can't. That it's just kind of weird to me. But it's also very indicative of where we are as a culture, like, across the board. Like, we and I think this, to me, is the most important part of this. One of the most important parts of this conversation is that we have to get past, like, this kind of staunch, like, I hate you philosophy in politics and in whatever area, and race and whatever else it applies to. Like, you know, that's just not going to work. That's not going to move any of us forward. And I appreciate, like, I really appreciated that about his interview, because he got there. He's like, look, I'm trying to work with whoever wants to work with me, and being able to have conversations with people who are different than you, and find the areas where you can agree, where you can work on things together to make things better in this country. I think that's always a win. And so, you know, I think we need to be more respectful in general. Like, you know, you talk about the cancel culture, like, we have certain rules at play of what you do and what you don't do until you, like, cross into enemy territory. And then, like, those rules no longer apply. And now we treat you like you're an enemy. And the way that we treat enemies It's horrible, man. It's
Yeah.
like we have just devolved. Like the rhetoric, the lack of civility, like the hatred.
Yeah.
It's next level.
Yeah, I would say one of the other things that I'm hearing, right? It's like, because we have this thing that concerns me where we like vote, like it's your duty to vote. People died for your right to vote, and like all that, right? So we have that, but I think for me, it almost, we do that in a way where it stops there, right? I think that when I hear people say that, like, you know, in order to honor somebody's legacy that died for somebody to vote by voting, like that doesn't seem like I'm really honoring someone's legacy that laid down their life, right? I think if you can put some energy and effort after you vote, right? So like you cast a ballot, now what? And I think that Ice Cube is working on the now what, you know what I mean? Even beforehand, right? And I think that if we're discouraging people from putting energy and effort into trying to negotiate and go beyond the ballot, right? I think that is something that you know, we really should take a look at. Like, if somebody's going to put some energy into it, and I think he's looking to link up with even more people, right, to speak into it. I think he has a blueprint, outline, you know, and yeah, that's where I'm at. You know what I mean with it. Paul says, even if you don't like him, Trump has tried very hard to keep his campaign promises from 2016 more than most politicians. So what do you have to lose?
That sounds like a very Trump-like statement. More than most politicians. More than honestly, when one of the things that I agreed with in the Trump campaign the first time was he said that same thing. He said, "What do you have to lose?" I think we've seen the manifestation of what we have to lose in the just downward spiral of what was already happening in America. I don't blame him for I don't put things solely on him for this regression, this spiral downward in a lack of civility, the spiral upward in the tensions.
You don't put it solely on him. So
I don't put it solely on him. He didn't start it. I put a lot on him as a leader. I think culture always goes down. Like whatever the culture is at the top. So when you're using your platform to attack business leaders from jump, I mean, like personally attacking people is ironic. You have the first lady saying she's doing a cyberbullying thing, and then you have like one of the biggest initiators of cyberbullying and perpetrators is her husband. Like, that doesn't make much sense, and it's laughable. It's one of those things that's like you feel like you feel like politics right now is like Ashton Kutcher is going to jump out any moment and be like, this is a big prank. You know what I'm saying? Right.
I wish.
Yeah, but one of the things that he said that made sense was like, what do you have to lose? Like, the Democrats aren't doing, and I think Ice Cube alludes to that too. Like, and like this whole, like, if you don't vote for me, if you ain't black, and like black people are just supposed to like vote this way. It's like, man, like when I hear Democrats talk about what Republicans are going to do that's bad for like black people or minorities, like they're going to take away benefits. Man, is that the best you have to offer though? Like, is welfare? You know what I'm saying? It's like, where is the plan for empowerment? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you like, we're just gonna keep doing like, so you're gonna keep people like, it's okay that people are in poverty as long as like we can just kind of keep giving them these things to like patch them through until the next paycheck? Or like, where's the long-term systematic plan to move things forward? And that's what I think is a problem. And to Paul's point, it's like, to some degree, like I kind of agreed with what he's saying, like the what do you have to lose part, more so in voting Republican than him specifically. But yeah.
So I guess I'll take a stab at a bunch of it, right? So I'll take a stab at the what do you have to lose part, right? So I think some real practical things come to mind for me when you talk about the what do you have to lose, right? So
and are you talking about voting for Trump, or are you talking about like Ice Cube, because I think what he's talking about is Ice Cube talking to him. Yeah,
I'm coming back behind what you're talking about and kind of Paul's question, right? So like, I'll just like make some practical points. Like, so when Trump's response to like a bunch of folks, you know, storming the Capitol in Michigan in protest to like opening back up the state and wearing masks, and some of the other things that were implemented at that time. When there's no response to that except for, like being in agreement with them, but the response to folks that are protesting police brutality and people being killed, when the response is send in, the National Guards, like send the military in to deal with one and hooray to the other, right? Like that to me, like makes way for everybody else, like the young man that was in Milwaukee, like they killed, they killed a couple people, right? Like that sets the stage for stuff like that. So that's some of kind of like what you have to lose. I would say,
what about Ice Cube? Do you think Ice Cube has something to lose here?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's like that. I don't know if that's his Paul's point. But yeah, I definitely think Ice Cube has something to lose. I mean, he has a lot to lose. But then on the keeping the promises part, right? It's like we have to remember that like he had people that were going to be able to push through his efforts, right? So like when Barack Obama was there, there was a lot that he was looking to get done, but you had nobody, like I won't say nobody. You had there was enough people there to stop everything that he attempted to do. Like nobody was necessarily working with him to help him bring or make some of those promises come to fruition, right? He still was able to pull off Obamacare. Like it was a real like different version than what he was looking to launch, you know what I mean? Which wouldn't have had some of the problems that Obamacare has had, but he was still able to do that. So I would say, taking everything into consideration, has he been able to get some of his promises done, Drew? Yeah. At the end of the day, like I got a 14-year-old black son that I'm concerned about when you have like Donald Trump's answer to questions about what's his agenda for black people, and he works in law and order when nobody asked him anything about like law and order. The fact that a question about black people to him is synonymous with a question about like crime, like that's very telling for me. You know what I mean? So there's the potential of loss is very high when I think about like my son's interaction with law enforcement. So for that, to me, like that's enough for me to say like deuces. I'll try to work with somebody else that is not like encouraging people to continue to fight if they disagree. And I think that's kind of what he's been doing, going all the way back to his original campaign when people were there that were opposed to him, and he was saying, "Oh, I remember back in the day, if they came through there, somebody would take them out back, or something, or this would happen." And then you started seeing people like assault people at his campaign rallies. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of stuff that he encourages. And so that's kind of like the what do you have to lose? I would say it's right up there, with my everything when I'm talking about my son and specifically. So
yeah, Demi's on. Let's bring Demi on and see what she wants to jump in.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Very well. Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I had a couple of thoughts with regards to the whole Ice Cube issue and the whole Donald Trump issue. I'm very concerned about him reneging. The reason why I think Donald Trump is in a position to renege is because he's coming to this deal because there's an impending election. Once he gets elected, that's his second term. He doesn't have to do anything. I think that a lot of the reasons why he tried his hardest to fulfill a lot of his initial campaign promises was because he knew he had an upcoming election, right? If anyone would be in a position if anyone would have more on the line and be more beholden to their promises, I would think it would be Joe Biden. But like Dawn said, Joe Biden, he'll get blocked left, right, and center. So that is the first concern. The second, the second is not so much a concern. It's like the little kind of devil on my shoulder that says, he runs the whole government and the whole country like he's a bully, right? But if he can make things happen for the Black community, then why not? Like, we can't hang on our ideals, because where has that gotten us thus far? There were all these other people who, we agreed with because their ideals aligned with us. But how do they really meaningfully help the Black community? So it's like, sometimes you kind of have to sit with the devil and make a deal with the devil and just, take it how you can. That's what I think, because I feel like we can only hold on to ideals for so long. At the end of the day, we'll be left holding our ideals. We'll still be getting shot. We'll still be at the bottom of the wealth spectrum, but we're held on to our ideals. I feel the world is not fair like that. You can't. It's just like back in the day, you can't be noble in the courts where everyone is treacherous. You kind of have to play the game a little bit. That's what I think. Those are my 2 cents. Those are exactly 2 points. Yeah.
That is very good. To your first point, I think Donald Trump cares. Like, I think the number one thing he cares about, and this is why I think that he's inclined to follow through on whatever he says as much as possible, like that. The number one thing he cares about is himself. I think that's pretty clear. When you like, they've analyzed this, like they've analyzed his speeches and how much praise that he gives to himself. It's absolutely amazing. He loves, like, his ego is ginormous, and so he, like, any chance that he gets for like himself to praise it, to be self-congratulatory, as well as like to get somebody else, like, here, let's take a picture, like, see what I did. Yeah. To me, that's his biggest, like, more than like, which getting reelected is part of that, but I think that like his reelection stuff, like, I don't think things will just die from like what he wants to accomplish. I still think he wants to continue to like fan the flames of like whatever can bolster his ego any bigger than it already is. So yeah.
But to me, it doesn't even seem like just the Black community or people of color are on his radar. Like, that's what that's what to me it seems like. Like, I totally get your point, about, he always wants to be the good guy and he wants all this praise and stuff like that. But no buts. But do you think that he would actually follow through with the back? Like, do you think he actually cares to be congratulated, about doing something for the Black community? Because in doing that, he is going to alienate a nice amount of his fan base who considers Black people, less than.
Yeah, well, what about the HBCU though? You know what I'm saying? When you give money to, like, that's not, and he's talked about that openly. So he's condemned, not like the neo-Nazis and the KKK openly, and condemned racism openly, called it evil. So like that's I think he's at the place where he just kind of does whatever he wants to do. Even some of the stuff that, like, there's been people that have said, like, man, he acts more like a Democrat than a Republican. When you look at how he handled, like, the stimulus package, and that's not a very Republican thing to do, where he just, like, let's just give everybody a bunch of money. That's not a Republican thing to do. Like, but, I think there's plenty of stuff he does that he just doesn't care what like a certain segment of the population is going to think. And people get behind him like that. That's what blows my mind more than anything else, is like how much pushback he does not get. He's a radical dude. That's my 2 cents.
Fair enough. But so yeah, I guess that's fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I park on like not like trusting like any party to mean like to do well just out of like meaning well. Like, I think that there needs to be pressure applied. And I think that when you're in position to apply pressure, I think you end up getting like, your agenda move forward. When you have dollars behind you, when you have numbers behind you, I think that's who you see the politicians end up responding to pretty much at every level. That's, my thoughts. So I don't see just trusting that either one of them would do what they said they're going to do, especially as it regards to like the history that we have in this country. I think that being in a position to apply as much pressure as possible to move things forward. And I wanted to go backtrack a little bit. I think that one of the things that Steve has said was he was talked about kind of on the heels of Paul's question, like there being saying he's gonna take benefits, right? And like that being like, is that all? I think one of the things that is like you could miss is that like, dude, if you've been like really, really hungry, and missed many, many meals and have had the lights turned on and off, you know what I mean? Like you want to have vision and you want to think about like larger outcomes and bigger picture, but sometimes the darkness, you know what I mean, of poverty and, the hunger pains can cloud your vision from being able to see that far out. So when poor people are saying, they're going to take benefits, you know what I mean? It's like, for those of us that may identify as middle class or like wealthy, like I'm in rooms where a lot of people that got money ask for free stuff, you know what I mean? And they're not poor and they ask for stuff way more than what I see poor people get. So in comparison, like, that the whole that thing is kind of out of balance. But I just wanted to I was thought about that before I moved on. I wanted to kind of like just bring that point.
To clarify, I wasn't minimizing taking the things. I'm saying, is that all Democrats have to offer is benefits? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that really what it means to like stand behind black people or brown people? Like, it's like we're gonna get like, so what I'm saying, like, where is the path towards like wholeness? That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like 100%. Like you can't, I mean, they've done studies like in education, like if your stomach's growling, how are you going to pay attention? So there's some very basic things. Like I agree with you wholeheartedly there.
Gotcha.
And Demi too, like, and Demi, like, I'm kind of where like Ice Cube is on this, like from a trust perspective. I don't necessarily trust, like I'm just giving, like, as I look at things logically and I look at how Trump has operated, these are the reasons why I think it could or might or is probably likely to happen. But like realistically, man, I don't know if it'll happen or not. Like, and I don't know what Biden would do, even if he had like if he had like majority Democrats. Like his track record isn't good. Like it's not.
No.
It's not good. So
exactly. That's a good point. So would you guys then would you guys think it is a good idea to quote unquote endorse the Trump campaign if they do promise X, Y, and Z that will be beneficial to the community?
You want to say it or you want me to say it?
You're gonna say hell no?
Hell no.
Oh man.
Why not? This is my question to you. Why not?
So I'll start. I'll go back to something that I said to make another point, right? Like, because it comes down to something very practical for me, right? Like I know what like police brutality looks like. You know what I mean? I know what police harassment looks like. And I see us going backwards there, and that that is not the only issue that I'm parking on. That's a big one, but I think that it really is just a microcosm of just kind of where we find ourselves on most issues, right? It's like not looking for love, not looking for trust, but like civility is huge for me, respect is huge for me, and honoring life, you know what I mean, is huge for me. And I just don't see that here. I don't see it I see it like being very, very like dangerous. And you couple that with somebody that can't be held accountable, right? Like you can't shame him. Like that to me is a very bad combination. I think that you put somebody else in there, they can at least be shamed. You can hold them accountable to some degree. I just think that Donald Trump is beyond that, and I've seen him consistently. You know, when given, like he is for stop and frisk. You know what I mean? He publicly said that. Like he's okay with just randomly stopping and frisking somebody that looks like a suspect to you. You know what I mean? So like for those reasons, I'm like, you know, he's got to go, because whatever he's talking about doing, anybody can get in there. And if they had the support, they could potentially do that. And when you're talking about, you know, having like putting another like Supreme Court justice in place that's going to be appointed by like a president, like laws that and progress that you think and advancements that you think that you made can go backwards as well. So that's kind of where I'm at on the whole Trump thing.
Yeah.
No, to Kathleen's question, I do not see Biden necessarily honoring life, but what I do see Biden is somebody that can be shamed and can be held accountable. I don't see like Donald Trump, you know, being shamed on anything that anywhere he parks, he's there and he can't be moved. You know what I mean? And you can't use a moral high ground to move that guy. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't endorse either one. I don't think Biden could run a small business. I think his level of incoherency is pretty incredible. His track record is not impressive, and yeah, I can't believe we're here. Like that's what and I blame us. Like I do. Like I don't. Like I think we're horrible for being in this position. I think we're horrible 4 years ago. I think we're horrible now as a people. I think we really need to like look in the mirror before we do anything else. As far as Trump goes, like this was always my concern. Like where we are as a country right now today was always my concern with him. There were two things like with him like running for president 4 years ago. It's like one, he's gonna open his mouth and like get us in a fight with North Korea, because at the time like tensions were huge there, and like some of the stuff he says like on an international level and does is like mind blowing to me. The second was because then too we were at a place where nationally we were in a crisis and we needed somebody that would bring us together, and I don't know of a more divisive person, like human, that I've come across than him. And he continues to fan flames, to fuel fires. He's a bull in a fire in a china shop. Like if there's not a fire, he'll just start one. Like, you know, so like for no reason. It's mind blowing. So to have like a human, much less a president, like the stuff that happens is like it's embarrassing. But like I can get over being embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Like that's our president. Yep, people are laughing at us. Yep, yeah. I can get over that. What, to go back to the beginning, like the kidnapping stuff, like so as much as I don't like Whitmer pointing the finger, I do think that he continues to create an environment by what he says, by what he doesn't say, but what he addresses, what he doesn't address, by calling LeBron nasty and not coming out right away, like when on the kidnapping stuff and condemning that kind of stuff. Like he could have beat her to before she had her press conference. Like he's like really quick on Twitter. So the stuff that he says, like about athletes or like all this kind of stuff, like and not just that, like there's a bunch of like his level of disrespect. Like it all goes downward. So when you see the person at the top doing that, you've seen an emboldened amount of like you can look at different places along the they've done studies across the country, places actually where he has done his campaigns, that hate crimes rise. You know what I'm saying? Like in a short period of time. So I definitely would not endorse him. I think he's dangerous. I think he's led us to a precipice. And I think now, regardless of what happens in the election, whether he wins or whether he loses, I think we're in a dangerous place, a very dangerous place. And I could see us like, you know, I think we're ready to blow. You know, Dangerous dude.
Okay, well, I guess that's a little counter to what I was thinking, because there was obviously a lot of memes that said, America got the president that we deserve, right? Back in 2016, because
Yeah.
Pretty much we were trash and we got a trash president.
Yep.
Pretty much. But so to Duan's point with regards to the stop and frisk, so there, there are all these the stuff with nominating Amy Coney Barrett. That's already a done deal. We can't roll that back. She's probably going to be there for like 50 years because she's super young, relatively speaking. But for so he's, besides fanning this flame and creating this environment that is permissive for very, very dangerous thinking and very, very dangerous actions with regards to, laws that he can enact, because he doesn't have the authority, to make provisions for stop and frisk. He does not have the authority on that level, right? You don't think if he has agreed to this plan that is going to, because I haven't seen anyone else, and there have been plenty of people in a position to do so, actually say, hey, we're going to work with the Black community. Because all the Democrat, during the Democratic debate, they all stood there talking about reparations, knowing darn well that would never, ever happen. They just threw it out there, just like little candies, just to bait black voters. So it's like, this is someone that's actually in a position to do something,
So
you do know if you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black, right? Like what you're talking about right now is blasphemous.
So I guess
I already voted, so I can't roll that back.
So I guess the being optimistic, right? Like why would you be optimistic in one space and not the other? I guess is the question I have, right? So like, because for me, it always comes down to like, there needs to be a pressure applied to what people say they're going to do. So like, that's what they do. They make promises and all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing. It's like, so if they're saying, because there was once upon a time I would have said I could never see like reparations happening, but then we had a Black president, and then we had Donald Trump, right? So like, I would have never like thought that I would have seen a Black president in my lifetime, and I would have never thought, except for after the Black president, I called Donald Trump. Everybody else was like, he's gonna lose. I was like, no, we just voted for a Black dude twice, so there's no telling what we're liable to do. You know what I mean? Like I can't predict what we're going to do at this point. So for that reason alone, I say there's a chance that Donald Trump will win, and here we are. So I say, but to your point, if Donald Trump is saying he's going to work with Black people, if some folks said that they're going to pull off reparations, I don't believe either one like more than the other. But what I am willing to do is what is our role in holding either one of them accountable, right? I think that, to Q's point, if Donald Trump ends up winning the election, it won't be because I supported him, but I will figure out what role I need to play to make sure that this agenda moves forward. And I will figure out what role I need to play to make sure he doesn't implement stop and frisk. You know what I mean? Like now, where we are on the pandemic, like that's a rough one, right? It's like, like I have people that have lost loved ones that they couldn't go into the hospital to say goodbye to, right? Like when they heard, along with the rest of us, when we heard Donald Trump saying, yeah, I knew it was worse, I tried to downplay it, this, that, and the other, when they're hearing like the mismanagement of a pandemic, all they're thinking about is, damn, could there have been some things done to keep my loved one here? Like, could like my wife like still be alive? Could my husband still be, could my dad still be alive? You know what I mean? That's what people are hearing. So that type of deceit and deception coming behind that, you're expecting somebody to say they're going to keep their word on anything. Like how you can reconcile those things is beyond me. You know what I mean? But I still believe in applying pressure when possible because I trust them to be politicians at the end of the day myself.
Okay, that's a great answer. And just to be clear, I'm not for endorsing him in any way, shape, or form, because to me, he's garbage and despicable, and that's not our price. Like, everyone has a price, and this cannot be our price.
When you talked about the devil on your shoulder, I was like, I thought that devil might have convinced you. I didn't know.
Oh, no. But the one thing that I did for sure think when Wayne, who can do the most for the community, was then looking at, okay, so if Donald Trump is in a position to do all these things, then why can't we then run this to Biden-Harris campaign and say, he's willing to do these things. Can you make X and X promises? And then we get behind him as, a community. I was it Steve that brought up the fact that when he said, if you don't, you ain't back if you don't vote for me, or something to that effect. I was not a huge fan that and then his slogan is stay loyal. He just thinks we're sheep to me. He just thinks I'm not a huge fan. I don't like being it's not manipulated, but he just assumed that, because, he was Vice VP to Barack Obama, we voted for Obama, automatically, we're going to vote for him, when it's like, who are you and what do you stand for and what are you going to do for the community? We're not like gone are the days where we just blindly follow like sheep. What are you going to do for our community? And I think that's what I think Ice Cube is in a position to do, is then run it to them and say, look, you actually need to put your money where your mouth is and actually, do something, because he keeps saying he is for the Black community and he's for love and peace and rainbows. But guess what? We need something more actionable, right? For the community. But yes, I do not endorse him. I was just playing the devil's advocate. I'm going to put that out there.
It's all good. It's all good. We thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. We enjoy your comments when you text them, but we enjoy having you here with us a lot more. So thank you for hanging out with us. We're going to have to get ready to wrap it up soon. I think Kathy is still upset about, or not upset. She got a lot of question marks, about 20 question marks.
Thank you, Demi.
Said, you see Biden honoring life, Dewan? I think I already answered that one. Hunter, question marks.
So his son and the scandal with the computer and Joe, and that's what I was gonna say to your point about the coronavirus. I think I don't know what another president would have done or wouldn't have done. I don't trust politicians in general. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about and Ice Cube mentioned this too. It's like, it's a game. So I'm not here to play the political game. It's a game across the board, and so I don't trust. I wouldn't trust the Biden campaign to be honest about what they're going to do, or Trump or anybody. I just don't trust politicians, period. And I think some, are more blatant and careless in the way that they communicate their lies. And I think others are, a little more crafty. And so you can get into degrees of lying, and then there's so many backdoor deals and so on and so forth. So I don't, I get what people say about the coronavirus. I just kind of I don't know how anybody else would have handled it. So, I really don't know. So. Yeah.
I want to know though, because I know how one person would have handled it, seen it. So I do want to know how somebody else would have. You know what I mean? I'm interested to see that.
Yeah, but it's impossible. That's all. That's my only point. It's
I'm saying on the other side of this, because the coronavirus is still here. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, but you got all the you can't relive a new pandemic. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. It's this is.
Yeah, but I mean, you can say if we get spikes and it's life or business, I choose life. You know what I mean? So if the governor says we got to shut some stuff down for a while, you can encourage folks your supporters to support that. You know what I mean? Or you can say, get that person out of there, lock that person up, open up the businesses, don't wear masks, or do wear masks if you feel like it. You can do all that, right? Because the pandemic is still here. You know what I'm saying? So you can't. So there's still a lot that can be done, even with all the information that we have now.
Yeah, and I feel like we're getting into like becoming a political show and going back to these particular things. I mean, there's overall, like I'm still looking at like how we're like what we're doing, like interacting as people, encouraging us as people to do. So like, and that's all I'm saying about that is like, I don't. Yeah, there's things that can be done about that.
No, for sure. So, well, one thing's for sure. In a few weeks, we can stop talking about who people are going to vote for because they would have been voted or haven't voted. You know what I mean? One thing or other. I don't know if we're gonna actually have a candidate or an elected person at that point. I don't know how long it's gonna take folks to count votes. I don't know what's going. I don't know what they expect on the other side of that stuff. But I think that it's beyond time to like wrap up. And I've enjoyed the conversation. I've enjoyed the energy. Demi's still on fire in the comment section. Demi, go to sleep. Demi, go to sleep.
Yeah, we'll be here. Either way. Biden, Trump, doesn't matter.
Oh yeah,
we got very deep problems in the U.S. and I think there's very fundamentally flawed ways. Like I think the Ice Cube thing is a case in point, like a great case study of like how messed up we are as a country and how like unable we are to agree, disagree, to like have nuances and conversations, and we'll just go all the way. We're all the way here or all the way here, and so yeah, there's a lot to work through.
Yeah. I mean, we'll definitely be here, Demi, to hang out, no matter who wins. Like that's not going to try. I mean, to be honest, like I wouldn't be surprised if he won again. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be surprised at all. So I plan on being here, unless y'all don't want to hear from us no more. Then me and Steve could just go grab some coffee and talk to each other. And that's cool too. But we love talking to y'all. So go ahead and wrap us up, Steve.
All right. Appreciate everyone that was on tonight. Appreciate all the comments. Peace and love. Till next week. We always have something to talk about, and Ralph is going to tell you why.
This is America.
I have a dream.
These are animals.
America preaches integration and practices segregation.
Why did you say Mexico?
A rising tide of discontent.
The South will rise again. I have a dream.
We have contrasting visions about what America is.
This is America.